Then you have the whole you have the other camera, then you have the officer lemon pound cake. And then did he eat it? I'm not sure. Did he actually eat the cake or did he just stop and look at it like a fat boy
You
loves
know
cake?
what? It once
All right. Hey, it's Lou Pimber. Welcome to Lou Pimber Speaks. I'm author of the book Breaking Badly, a post-traumatic success story. My life, having been a soldier, undercover law enforcement officer, loved it. TV and film actor and entrepreneur. I like to hop on here and talk to interesting people about some interesting things that are going on in the world. And today I have a friend of mine, Alan Baytes. By the way, he's also a local businessman, and I'll let him talk about himself in a minute. But we want to talk about Afro Man. The guy, because I got high. Apparently, he's been in the news, and I came across this. First of all, Alan, tell us about yourself, but we'll talk about Afro Man here in a minute. Go ahead, Alan.
was Lou, as you know, I am an entrepreneur. Also a baby boomer. I was born in '55.
Okay.
This is not like this is some young kid. Okay, I'm 71 years old. Just turned
Wow.
71.
Okay.
I run a professional photography studio. I've been published in fashion magazines. You and I met because I'm also licensed as a life, health, and insurance agent, helping people with their finances.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge contributor and supporter of both the men in blue in uniform, and I support a charity called Boots for Troops. So anyone who serves in the military or also who are in law enforcement, I'm a huge supporter of. I just want
Awesome.
to put that out there, okay?
I
Because we're
appreciate
going to
that.
get into some interesting things.
Yeah. So just throwing it out there. All right. So we were talking the other day, and the whole Afro Man thing came out. By the way, you weren't the only person that sent it. Someone else sent it to me, but I didn't get a chance to look into it. But apparently, my boy Afro Man, Mr. Foreman, got himself into kind of a tizzy, right? And then when I looked, so let me just start prefacing this. I was a narcotics agent for many years, so I participated in a number of search warrants, calling in warrants, affidavits to go into someone's home, basically to violate legally their right to privacy and barge on in, right? And go in there and handle business. But there's a way to do it. There's definitely a way to do it. So in this case, Alan, what is your understanding of what happened in the aforementioned Afro Man? What do you know about it?
Well, this is a little bit I know, and I will say that I was not part of the process. I'm only getting from what I'm getting from both the media and social media, but
Yeah.
allegedly and apparently that the warrant, which, as you mentioned, if you have a warrant, okay, that means it goes through a judge, and law enforcement does have a legal right, okay, to come to your home and if necessary invade it. And they did. The challenge I had is that the warrant came from a CI, and you know that's a confidential informant that was questioned to be questionable. Now, so my question is, what was the credibility of this confidential informant?
Right.
And with you being law enforcement, if you get a tip from anyone, does that give you the right to pull a warrant to come and see me? For example,
Right.
you know me. All of a sudden, somebody says Alan has got a dungeon and is dealing drugs in his home.
Yeah.
Okay, does that give you the right to get a warrant to come and bust in my house?
So not necessarily, but in this case, apparently, he was reported to have suspicion of kidnapping, I heard, right? And then was it drugs sales, distribution of drugs or something like that? Is that correct?
Allegedly, from what I could gather. And again, I'm no fan of Afro Man. I want to just put that on the record.
Hey, I'm a
I mean,
fan of Afro.
well, no, and nothing against the man. We're just two different people, okay? I'm a little
Yeah,
bit more conservative. I
yeah, yeah,
absolutely respect the fact that he stood up for his rights. That
yeah,
100%, okay?
yeah,
I respect the man that he understands the Constitution, and I'm a constitutionalist, okay?
yeah,
I grew up conservative. Traditionally, I voted Republican, but with
yeah,
everything changing, I'm big on the Constitution. So
yeah.
on those two fronts, Yes, I support that gentleman 100%. So, based upon the allegations, allegedly, that he kidnapped. Well, did they find any kidnapping? Okay, so before we even get to what they found, let's look at the premise of the warrant.
Go ahead. What do you know about it? And I'll tell you from my tell me what you know, and I'll give it to you from the law enforcement perspective, including this confidential source. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. From my understanding is that this confidential informant informed the police officers that Mr. Afroman was doing whatever, and some illicit activity, whether it was drugs, whether it was kidnapping, whatever it was. Now, let's stop there for a second. If a confidential informant, one person, makes an allegation of another person, and I just want to know this from a process standpoint, isn't there a process that has to be in place before that warrant gets issued to validate what a person says? Otherwise, I can say that you're a pedophile, and
Yeah.
you and I both know you're not.
Right. So here's the thing, man. So here's the process to get a warrant. First of all, the judge is on the very end of it. Okay. It starts with an investigation. Okay. In this case, it started with a confidential informant. Okay. It may or may not be that one crazy sounding one that was on the on YouTube. I don't know if it's her or not. Okay. But But as an investigator, if I'm going to go into someone's house and either use force to get in or knock on the door and allow myself in, okay, I better have some good information. Okay. I have to, number one, vet the source, right? Number two, you have to consider the sources. In this case, it was a confidential informant. You have to vet the source. You have to identify what is their motivation behind it, uh, right? Is this source credible? Meaning, has this source provided information before that proved to be correct? Right. So you have to look at all those things. Then you have to, if the source says, "Well, this is what's going on in there," okay, you have to give it the old taste test, okay? Remember the coffee, the old taste test, right? You have to either A, the investigators will have to go in there with the source or send in the source again and verify that this illicit activity is happening, okay? So in other words, whether it's a drug sale or eyewitness to a kidnapping, what did this victim look like? What were the facts and circumstances that led you to believe a crime is afoot? Okay. So then, once that has happened and the cop is satisfied, then he prepares an affidavit. He then calls in the warrant to a judge. Okay. The judge, all he or she has to go on is on the affiant, who swears in the warrant. That's all he or she has. And she says, go ahead. Whether they need to use force to get in is all based on the circumstance they meet at the door. Okay, so go ahead.
Well, no, and I 100% agree with you, okay? The question is that I have, and I don't have the answer to, and we're not casting any aspersions at law enforcement, okay? But it is a question.
Yes,
The question is based upon the information of the CI. Was it verified and confirmed that this gentleman did what he was allegedly alleged to have done?
right.
Okay. And if that took place, where was the verification and confirmation? Number
So
one.
that information would be found in case reports and in the affidavit.
Okay, so let's say it is a valid affidavit,
Hmm.
and allegedly there's some questions around that. I don't have enough information to even comment.
Yeah,
Okay. But let's say that the affidavit is true. And let's say that the affidavit does provide law enforcement the right to forcibly enter this man's property. Okay. I'm not going to argue that. I don't have enough information. The question I have is why would anybody cut the security cameras that are on property unless, something nefarious was going on?
hmm,
Now, again, I wasn't there. Again, this we're not casting any blame, but it does raise some really interesting questions
yeah,
as to why would you cut the security camera, something that's going to record you?
yeah. So let me address that. Okay, from a layperson's point of view, I get your point of view, right? Saying, well, why would they cut it? I mean, it's if they have nothing to hide. I mean, we want to see. What happens then is, to be honest with you, if it was my warrant and I did everything right, by the way, I did a lot of warrants, many warrants, but I was the undercover that was in the house with these bad guys, okay? I was the one that went in, or me and a partner, or we would negotiate cocaine and all sorts of nasty stuff. And but if we ever came across where there was surveillance footage, we would also disconnect it. Here's
Let
why.
me ask you this.
Let me tell
Yes,
you why.
yes,
First, let me tell you why.
yes, sir.
We wouldn't damage it. We would just turn it off. Here's why. Two things. The safety of the officers inside, because we don't know who's monitoring it. Number two, it becomes evidence, right? So here's the thing. In evidence, there's a thing called a chain of custody. So if that evidence is out there in the internets of the world, right? Who has control of this evidence? Ideally, the only video footage that should have taken place is what if there was body cams on the officers is that. Or believe it or not, even in my time, they would have cameras while we were doing a warrant. Because that way you have complete custody of the video. But I totally get why Afro Man, and I saw his testimony. I don't blame the man for being upset, by the way, okay? Why he would question that. In a civil trial that he went to, he could pretty much say however you want to, and he kind of did. But yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
here's the thing, okay? So I have security cameras in my home,
Yeah.
okay? So somebody breaks into my home, you mentioned evidence. As a citizen, don't we have the Fourth and First Amendment right to protect ourselves by having the security cameras? And I understand from law enforcement's position, you don't want that evidence out there. But if somebody cuts those or disables my security cameras, and let's say I have $100,000 in my safe, and all of a sudden it's gone, and I have security cameras in my closets and all over, that becomes evidence that somebody took it. It did just not evaporate. So
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying about it going out there in the public.
Yeah.
My question is, as a citizen, don't citizens have the right to protect themselves with security cameras just to keep everybody, fair and square?
Yes, they do, but in that circumstance, their rights have been put on pause because
Okay.
now that is a crime scene per se, right? In this case, these officers did a bad job. They didn't do a very good job. Okay, I can't go up to bat 100% for these guys. They did it to themselves. Okay, sure. Should they have cut the wires? If that's what they did, they shouldn't have done that. Just turn off the thing, right? Or just disconnect the camera and put it down, right? Just do that because you can't give people a reason to argue with you and give you something. Then you have you have the other camera. Then you have the officer lemon pound cake. Did he eat it? I'm not sure. Did he actually eat the cake, or did he just stop and look at it like a fat boy
You
loves
know
cake?
what? Well, based upon what you just said, there was no camera to record it, so there was no evidence. So I cannot.
So, but there is a camera where it catches the officer in the kitchen, and he sees the pound cake, and he stops for a minute, like, damn.
And I mean, he's got his weapon drawn,
Yeah,
and he's looking at, and that's all we could see. So
yeah,
because of the fact that you're in law enforcement, I've dealt a lot with law enforcement.
yeah,
It's like I can only comment on what is, and what happens a lot of time, as you well know,
yeah,
it's the speculation that gets us in the weeds, and I'm not going to speculate.
yeah. So far, I haven't.
Did we see an officer in the kitchen? Yes. Did he eat the pound cake? I have no evidence of that.
No, but it was your typical, you know, even 50 Cent said it. He loves it like a fat kid loves cake. You know what I'm saying? And his buddies at the office have apparently been bringing him cake all day long. That's, hey, look, in the cop world, man, like in the military, your buddies will razz you and haze you until you break. Did it to himself. Now, what about this whole thing with the money? Now, there was some money that was miscounted, or what happened there?
Well, from what I understand, because I watched it also, I watched how
Yeah.
the prosecutor or
Okay.
what, not a one of the police officers who testified, who gave his credentials,
Yeah.
was saying he was counting the money, then he dropped it and he started counting again. And so, again, I wasn't there. I don't know. but I've counted a lot of money.
Yeah.
Money machines or counting money, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so if I owe you, let's say I owe you $10,000, I'm gonna count 100, 200. I'm gonna keep counting so you can see that I'm putting down 10,
Right.
1, or 100, $100 bills, right?
Yeah.
In this case, the way that the testimony went, that somewhere in between the counting stopped, and that just as a layperson, that's like, well, that doesn't make logical sense to me.
Yeah.
And getting back to the cameras, it is my understanding, and I'm no civil rights attorney, but it's my understanding that citizens do have the right to videotape police officers in their home. And we'll have to defer to a civil rights attorney, but according
Yeah.
to the Amendment, in my understanding, that's a right we all have. You said they did it to themselves. In this case, if law enforcement has broken the civil rights of a citizen, are they not responsible and liable for that?
Yeah, I guess to a point, yes, they are.
And so going back to Afroman, and I'm sorry for interrupting. And so here's the thing that I do support him on. I think he's a little bit more flamboyant than I am,
Yeah.
or I would be. But to each his own. I love what he's doing. And you mentioned they brought it upon themselves.
Yeah.
What Afroman did state on numerous occasions in interviews and testimony on the bench and in court, he said if they would have just apologized and said, hey, we're going to fix it because my bad, you're not the bad guy, he said this would be gone down the river. The fact
Right.
that they went back to sue him for what? Okay, for defamation apparently, but apparently there's a case court, and I looked this up in the Supreme Court, where Michael Jackson, based upon their First Amendment right, you can do parody. So he was still within his First Amendment right. So as a
Right.
constitutionalist, everything that I can see is this gentleman was still in his civil rights. And as you have mentioned, maybe in this case, this group of law enforcement officers, maybe they didn't do their due diligence, or maybe, as you said, they messed up on this one.
Yeah, yeah. So back to the camera thing, right? The state may say otherwise, right? The state court may say differently, but here's what typically trumps all that. You ready? Is officer safety. Okay. If if these guys came in and it was a low level crime situation, it's just a couple detectives. Hey, we got a warrant. Can we come in? Sure, sure. Yeah, no need to turn off the camera. It's all good, right? But if they had the articulable reasons to come in with big guns and all this police presence, and if they're in there, I don't know what it was in their mind or what the case was, then shutting off a camera, I would definitely go for that because I don't know who's watching this. I don't know if the other Afro gang brothers are going to come down and shoot it about while we're there. I don't know. So that's what it gets into, right? So to your point, now, yes, yes, people have the right, and I think Afro Man did a heck of a job doing what he did. He, as he says, he took the can and kicked it down the yard. Look, I'm with you, man. When we used to do warrants, and we're gonna bust down a door. By the way, I only did a few of those where I busted the door down because I was always the undercover, so we had SWAT people to do that, okay? But you have to leave a statement, all the damages or whatever, and we normally wouldn't fix it, right? Because we had it going by force, right? And there's normally you have to knock. There's a thing called knock and announce. Did they knock and announce? I don't know what Ohio requires, but it's probably I think it's a federal law where you have to knock and announce. Bang, 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 bang. Police, we have a bang, 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 bang. Police, we have a warrant. Who is it? Police, we have a warrant. If you don't open the door, we're going to come in by force. Hang on a second. Okay. If his family was there, if he was there, if there was audio or video footage of that with them saying, screw you cops, we're not opening the door. Okay, we have to come in.
Hmm.
Or if they hear, force the drugs, we're coming in, right?
Or
Then there's another one.
even as you say, just a second, you don't know if they're preparing to get weapons. You don't know what it is.
Yeah,
So I'm on your side on that side
yeah,
of the door, but it
yeah,
goes back to, and again, we know each other. It's like you're very thorough in following the law. The
yeah,
question is, did these people follow the law? And in the original trial, they said that Mr. Afroman was not guilty of anything. So he was also apparently they were wrong, and
Apparently.
then yes, apparently and allegedly, they were wrong, and after they were wrong, they then came back to him. I mean, so it's kind of
What
like
happened after they were wrong? What do you mean? Why'd they come back?
well, my understanding is, okay, after they had the initial trial or the initial, disposition in terms of whether he was guilty or not, and he was found innocent, that he was not guilty of having a dudgeon. He was
Criminal
not
trial.
guilty. Yes, the criminal. He was, I don't know the legal term with it. He was acquitted for that.
Acquitted, okay. What were the
Okay, he
charges?
was,
You know what the charges were?
I don't recall what they
I
were.
don't think they
I
even
mean,
filed charges.
whatever it was, they were dismissed.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, it
And
was
what happened?
dismissed. Yeah, it didn't happen.
So they
And
come
so
back.
no, well, the reason why they come back is because they were dismissed. Here's Afro Man, according to his testimony, and allegedly, that because they didn't fix it or apologize, he says, "Okay, fine. I'm gonna turn this into publicity." That's what the man does. Now,
Right.
would I? Yeah, that's what he does. Now, would I have done that? I don't know. I'd probably, let sleeping dogs lie, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he does have the right, based upon his First Amendment right, to do what he did.
Right,
And he didn't lie about what he was rapping about. He
right.
had the videotape, there was no lie there, and so somebody got upset with that, and they filed a lawsuit against him for defamation,
Right. So
allegedly.
so let me go to that for a second. So
Yes.
he can do that so long as he wasn't maliciously or intentionally attempting to defame or lie about them,
And
right?
that's up to the courts to decide because
Right,
on one hand can say that you calling somebody a pedophile, that's
that's the
defam
one point I did have a problem with, yeah, yeah,
yes, well,
yeah,
yes, people can argue that. Now,
yeah,
I'm not a judge, I'm not a jury. Like I mentioned to you before, there are certain things about this case that I agree with, certain things I don't agree with.
yeah,
But on the ones I do agree with was standing up for his Fourth and his First Amendment, because
yeah,
once our constitutional rights go away, and number 2, the net result of that is I believe, and you know how big of a supporter I am of law enforcement.
yeah,
I believe that, not all people are bad, and not all cops are bad, but we
right,
do have people in society, and we do have bad folks in uniform.
yeah.
And what this does is it kind of puts people on notice that we have to follow the law. We're not the law. And that's the thing that's so important.
Yeah, we are not the law. We follow, we enforce the law. And the judge interprets the law, right? And
100%.
so yeah, and so yeah, so the whole thing about the videos he did, I saw some of the footage where he's talking about they're looking through his CDs, right? A layperson will say, "Well," and I think even in his song, he goes, "There's not gonna be no weed in there," or whatever he says, right? I know that. We know that. Police know that. But what they're looking for is the warrant is gonna say, "Any evidence or indicia of any crime." Indicia is ledgers, notes, right? And oftentimes criminals will hide things and stuff like that where you're not gonna look for. So if they're in there looking for weed and people, they're not gonna find weed and people in a CD case, or at least anything substantial, but they're looking for other things. Ledgers, notes, stuff like that. So some of the stuff he kinda would look at as kinda petty of him, but I totally get it why he did that. Because number
Well,
1, there
mhm.
was no charges brought against him, and number 2, they tore up his house quite a bit, right? And now he says, "I'm gonna take this situation and take" what do you say? Make, lemon out of made a pound
Make
cake
make
lemon cake?
lemonade out of lemon yes, make lemonade out of lemons. Now here's the
Yeah,
thing, okay? And you say petty. There's a lot of people that say that I do things that are petty. There are people that have I mean, opinions are like elbows. Everybody's got one, right?
yeah,
But here's my point, okay? The case was dismissed, okay? So for a case to be dismissed means that they had no probable cause or evidence to convict him of a crime.
correct,
Now, now they also destroyed his property.
right,
Now, what Mr. Afroman did after that, that's in his free will. I cannot tell a grown man what to do, what not to do.
yeah,
He chose to do that. He chose to monetize that. God bless him. I hope he makes a fortune, but
yeah,
more importantly, I hope he uses his money to help young people to
yeah,
one, more knowledgeable and about the Constitution,
Yep.
show more respect to law enforcement, what they can and can do, but also to put on notice, hey, we've got to do a better job of law enforcement as enforcing the law and
Yeah.
not the law.
Right.
And that's a lot of it's taking place.
Yeah, he exposed some bad business practices, if you will, of that law enforcement agency, right? Which probably no one had ever called him out on it before, you know? And sometimes small communities like that say, well, I guess this is what law enforcement is. Well, guess what, bro? They got they slipped up and they did a poor job at it. What did they have corrupt intentions? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was just a bad snitch. They believed the snitch and they said, "It's Afro Man. He's got to be bad because he got high." Don't be making a song about getting high, bro. And so
And I mean, look, this is a small town in Ohio. I mean, look at the way that the man presents himself. He
yeah,
may have people that don't necessarily agree with that. Some of these
yeah,
people may be in the department, and
yeah.
here's an opportunity to get this guy. I'm
Right,
not saying
right,
that's the case, okay,
right.
but humans are human. And so I will say this, and I'll say this again,
Yeah,
okay? He's a little bit more flamboyant for my taste.
yeah,
However, I admire and support him having the cojones to go out and do what he did, okay?
yeah.
And to do it in a respectful way. Like he mentioned, he does not hate the police department or the
Right,
officers that did this. He has no ill will towards these people whatsoever.
right.
And because of who he is as a promoter, if I'm a comedian and I have that, I'm gonna make a parody of that because that's my
Yeah.
business.
It's no.
He's a he's a rap promoter, so
Yeah.
I can't fault him by taking this content
I don't
and
either.
monetizing it because look at all the people on social media now who monetize his dancing around.
Yeah. I mean, look, he made pound cake out of lemonade, I guess, and he also he did the parody. It's no different than Saturday Night Live, hearing about it and then making fun of the cops. Unfortunately, the cops, you guys screwed up. You could have done a better job. You'll learn from it and get better from it. And they try to sue him for defamation, but again, it's a parody. The one part where I think he kind of pushed the envelope was calling that one guy a pedophile, only because the guy has a brother who was, I guess, a alleged pedophile or convicted pedophile.
And anything like that, okay? There's an old saying, if it's true, don't say it. If it's gonna hurt somebody, don't say it or do it. You know, I believe in our Lord Jesus Christ and Jesus
Yeah,
says turn the other cheek. But once again, it's like what he did, he's gonna answer for. But I wanted to say this, and you
yeah,
know this because of the fact that there are a number of great men and women in law enforcement that are walking the
oh,
streets,
yeah,
and it's a shame that, we have people like this that get a black eye, just like there's some great people in the black community, Hispanic community, white community,
yeah,
but unfortunately, that doesn't make news. What makes news is to talk about the negative, and I would hope that a platform like this and social media would get us to focus more on the positive things that are happening in our community as
right.
opposed to negative, because we need a lot of positivity in this world right now.
For sure, man. For sure. For sure. I think definitely there's a lot for the department to learn. I'm sure those guys could use some a refresher training all the way all up on the line to the prosecutor, you know what I mean? Hey, let's get these guys well versed on this, relying on third party information like like a snitch, and let's do a better job. Let's just do a better
Mhm.
job. Because in the end, I'd rather have a guilty person go free than an innocent person be found guilty. You know what I mean?
Amen.
And
Amen.
that's a terrible
And
thing.
that's happened too many times in our lifetime.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And so, props to Afro Man, bro. Hey, I'm a fan, dude. And so I hope that all works out for you. And look, he was on Fox News, and they asked him, "So, what did you learn from all this?" He goes, "What did you learn from that?" He says, he goes, "No," he goes, "So why'd you do all this?" He goes, "I did it for America, man." And he's right. He did.
He
He exercised
100%.
his constitutional rights, and all we can do is learn from it. So, Afro Man, props to you, brother. I hope you come out on top and people learn a lesson. And hook us up with some of that pound cake that Mama made, bro. It sounds pretty damn good.
But you're absolutely right, Lou.